pleasant good night or good morning, as the case may be. Okay, first thing is not that I get rich and switch and think that I have new background like my t-shirt or my shirt or anything like that. I'm just not at home, which is why the flag is not in the background. I'm sure that I carry my portable flag, we never know. But otherwise, yeah, straight red. Okay, so Yendi Phillips, who was former Miss World, Miss Universe, something, has announced mere moments ago that she was pregnant, right? So she put up the picture of she and the man and all of the belly and all of these types of things. And she announced, congratulations, Yendi. Blessings on you and the baby. She announced that it's a young McGregor. And since we all know that the genius is a fetus himself, it is fair to assume that it is Chino's baby. Fine. Everybody is up in arms. Interwebs have shut down. People are offended that Yendi would dare to get pregnant, out of wedlock, and would dare to get pregnant for a person who is not a Safa. Now, as somebody who is pro-Safa, I understand why we're offended, because everybody knows that when a Safa was made, he was fearfully and wonderfully formed in the figure and the image of the Lord, and he's at his puke, and I would understand why I would want her with a Safa, fine. But the fact is that she did there with a Safa, she done there with a Safa again, their relationship done. The way that people are talking about this girl, I have to wonder if it is that they feel that she's a turtle and she has some type of shell, or she's a cockroach and she has a thick exoskeleton, and the things that they're saying are not going to get her because people are being completely wretched. And I understand that she's a celebrity and it gives the impression that she's somehow community property, but she's a human as well. I want to be kind of careful how we talk about humans. Let them tear up about how she careless and she worthless with herself and she did a raffle the belly and all of these types of things. And I'm like, it's just a girl who get pregnant for you though. Like at the end of the day, it's a girl who get pregnant for you. And what kind of environment are we creating for her to bring that baby into when we are saying these types of things? Second thing, they're offended that she's pregnant for Chino. Okay. Primarily they're offended because recently Chino has had a lot of bellies appearing with his name on it. Like every 6 months or so, a girl would appear and she'd be like, the baby of the McGregor forehead. I feel that it is time that you own up to the baby. And I don't know whether I'm own up to the baby or not. I don't live in him life or in Blackberry. I does not know. But people are offended because, you know, him kind of just a walk up and down. Supposedly, and spit sperm everywhere. Why is it that we are not holding Chino accountable for that? We're holding Yendi accountable for being pregnant for him. Nobody has said to Chino, why did you go and impregnate Yendi when you knew you were not a suitable candidate to father her child? Instead of, Yendi, why did you go and let Chino impregnate you when you knew he was not a suitable candidate? No, I know historically it is easier for the man to run away and left the belly than it is for the woman to run away and leave the baby. Fine. So in that way, women need to be more discriminating than men. But can we come to a place now where we begin to hold both our men and our women accountable? Can we look at our young ladies and say, please be more discriminating in who you choose to father your children? And can we look at the young men simultaneously and say, please be more discriminating in how it is that you allow your sperm to land on people and impregnate them? And I'm not judging Yendi or Chino. I don't know what is going on with them life. I'm speaking in a more theoretical sense now about this way that we have come to understand Caribbean men to function and the way that we have given them a pass and we no longer hold them accountable. We know historically why it is that they are the way they are. It come off of the plantation society. Men were divorced from the literal fruits of their labor. They were literally to breed and live, so they were not encouraged to have relationships with their children. However, plantation society is done now. We're in contemporary society and it is time that men stop using this excuse and step forward. The first step that we have to take is stop expecting women to carry all of the burden in somehow choosing a good partner and asking men to do the work to become a good partner. Because here's what we're doing. We're pushing Caribbean women and we're pushing them. We say you need to be better. You need to be better. You need to excel. You need to excel. And this is what we're doing with Caribbean men. Oh, it's all right. You done what this already, so stay where you're there. So what happens is when we have the few Caribbean men who manage to reach even yes, so suddenly they become some type of scarce resource. And what we're expecting the women to do is either to fight one another to the death for these scarce resources, or they're supposed to exist in some type of concubinage, wifey versus matey situation, happily sharing this man, once again because he's a scarce resource. But never do we look at all of this fodder that we have sitting around, these millions and millions of Caribbean men who refuse to get their money up and come up to the level that they need to be at and say, why don't you become an eligible partner so the woman them don't have to fight quite so much? Why is the onus on the women? Now, I understand it is easier to leave a belly than it is to leave an actual baby that is inside of you. But why are we always putting the pressure on the women to make these decisions and not asking the men to play their part in actually being better for the women? And finally, she's It's out of wedlock. Okay. I don't want all of the people who are against sex and marriage and whatever out of wedlock. This is not the discussion I'm having. I'm not having a discussion about that. I'm not trying to legitimize anything. But what I'm saying is, why do we act as though in the Caribbean, the standard family form is a nuclear family, whereas mommy, daddy, 2.5 children, a goldfish, a dog, a cat, and a picket fence? Why do we act like these are the families that we come out of? And why do we act as though, despite the fact that we are adjusted, functioning, happy, productive Caribbean people, that somehow there was something wrong with the families that we came out of? And you could go back and forth and say, oh, well, the men are not performing because there are no fathers in their lives. And yes, I encourage fathers to stay in their children's lives. I encourage men to stay in their children's lives. But staying in the children's life does not mean that the child has to be had within wedlock. And there are other ways to have men in a child's life aside from having a father in the child's life. Once again, I am not speaking against a nuclear family, but what I am asking is, when are we going to stop denigrating Caribbean family forms then? And when are we going to find a way to see that there is value in them and that there are different ways of conceptualizing family? The saying that it takes a village to raise a child did not come out of nowhere. There was a time when children could run up and down in the village, and when them hungry, them just stop us by the house and them. When them tired, them stop us by the house and sleep. When them needed love and nurturing, they went to whoever's house offered it to that. And these are family forms that are more found in Africa. And I know everybody's tired of going back to Africa, but we have to talk about the two things that are influencing us. The family form that we are aspiring to is primarily a European family form, and it has its own history as to why it is that men and women became wedded to each other in this way, which I'm not going to get into. But why is it that we can look at this thing and say this is legitimate, but we refuse to look at the other side and say, oh, this could be playing a part here? Historically, our family forms have been denigrated, they have been undervalued, and they have been treated as somehow pathological and like they're going to create pathological people. Are you okay? Are the friends around you who came out of families that did not look like a traditional family okay? Well, when can we begin to do the work now to say this might be a legitimate way to raise a child? And I know there's a push-pull. If it is that you don't have two people in place raising you, then it's more likely that you might need some type of financial support. There's certainly an economic element. The world right now is built around the idea of two incomes raising a child. Fine, yes. It's easier when you have two people in the house, because if one of them have a bad day and they want to talk to you and you have a bad day and you need to talk to somebody, you bounce on other parent and do what you have to do, fine. But if you have a network of other people around you, it's possible that you can get that same support in that same way. Again, I'm not speaking against the nuclear family or encouraging people to have children in any type of situation that is going to put the child at a disadvantage then. But can we begin to think about the ways that coming out of a family form that is more popular within the Caribbean is not something that necessarily puts you at a disadvantage? And I know we don't want to think about anything that is not associated with the middle class or with the upper class, and we certainly don't want Yendi reflecting anything that we don't associate with the middle class or the upper class. She's a Caribbean woman and she's about to be engaged in a Caribbean family form, a legitimate Caribbean family form. And the people who we don't want to talk about because they're from the lower class and you think that's where these type of pathological family forms live, they're Caribbean as well. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are Caribbean as well. So can we begin to do the work to rethink how we conceptualize family and what we think of as a valid family form, and begin to validate the things that are ours and see how it has created us as okay? Can we begin to rethink how we let our men off the hook and hold our women too accountable? How we create a situation where the women don't have enough partners that are eligible, that creates more animosity between women than needs to be? And can we begin to be more careful about the way we speak about our own celebrities, or how it is we hold them accountable to something that is not necessarily ours? We want them to embody something that is not always ours. Can we think about those things? I know it's a rant, and I'm very sorry, but it was in my mind and I had to say it. Thank you for listening. If you've listened to the end, again, blessings, Yendi. Good night.